Hey guys, time to do NFL Week 2. It's Tyler. Had a few videos last week and had a lot of good comments on them and views, so might as well make another video. Who I just go over quick Week 1. By now, you've already figured out how much Week 1 sucked. Last year, Week 1, it was something like 40-something passing touchdowns, only a few defensive touchdowns this week. Almost double-digit defensive touchdowns and less than 30 passing touchdowns. It was just weird. All the studs didn't score. It was just a lot of pros at this hobby, sport, whatever you want to call it. Depends on who you're talking to. A lot of these pros didn't do well at all. So I'll just say my final pick. So as I go through the week, I narrow everyone down, kind of have a core group of players and start playing those. So my quarterbacks, Palmer, Ben Roethlisberger, and Tyrod. Palmer had 48 pass attempts. That led the week in Week 1. He also had the second most interceptions and then he got 12 fantasy points. That hurt. You're not going to do that again. So, right, Carson? Big Ben, he was under 10% owned in the Millie. He got 16.72 points, so just a low ownership. He had the ceiling there. I was fine on rolling him out on just a few. I stacked him with Antonio Brown, so not bad. Tyrod Taylor, he was one of my big guys. I think he was under 18% owned. It depends on what tournament you looked at. If you were in a smaller cash, then he was higher owned. But in the bigger tournaments, he was much lower owned, and he returned for almost 20 fantasy points, so that was good. Jordan Howard, he had 13 rush attempts, 52 rushing yards. If you guys haven't heard of a guy named Tariq Cohen, he was good in college. Chicago pretty much doesn't have anyone else on their offense, but Jordan Howard salvaged his day with a touchdown. DeMarco Murray, I was at that game. That hurt. Had he had a touchdown, would have been the same thing as Jordan Howard. Tennessee's offensive line is great. Their run blocking, I don't know. Todd Gurley and LaShawn McCoy are my other two running backs. So once again, Gurley, like 19 attempts, 40 rushing yards. Looks like Todd Gurley of last year. So, and then LaShawn McCoy, he just did everything. He's going to do everything. There's not much on that offense. A lot of rookies, a lot of new people. Even Jordan Matthews, although he's a veteran, he's still new to that offense. So Zay Jones, new on that offense. You can't just bring all these guys in and expect this offense to do much. So Tyrod Taylor, he had 8 rushing attempts last week. He's probably going to get another 5 or 6 this week. LaShawn McCoy, going to get another heavy workload. I was talking about Tolbert ruining his touchdown, but Sean got hurt, came out, said he didn't want to fumble the ball because his hand was numb, came out, Tolbert came in. Tolbert tried to get a touchdown later, and it was just a horrible Tolbert run, so no offense, Mike. You're not going to watch this anyway. These are my wide receivers. Cooper, Doug Baldwin, Fitzy. Fitzy had 13 targets. Cooper had 13 targets. Doug Baldwin, 4 targets, 4 catches. AJ Green, I didn't like him. I love Baltimore's defense, but as I said in my last video, because everyone else played him, I had to play him. I wasn't going to get beat by AJ Green. John Brown, 9 targets. That's 6th highest for Week 1. But when Palmer throws 3 interceptions, all that did was help out Matt Stafford and his offense. So, like, complete opposite of what I was expecting. Julio, 5 targets, 4 catches. And then I barely had any Terrell Pryor and just a couple Kelvin Benjamins, only because so many other people were loving him this week. I went on the Kelvin Benjamin train, but listened to a lot of podcasts and videos and just went over research and stats and all this stuff. Week 1's tough, but overall, it wasn't horrible. Like, my guys didn't do great. My wide receivers killed me. But just go over Week 1, a few little tidbits. Stephon Diggs had 8 targets, and he went nuts with all of them. Kenny Golladay had 7, 2 touchdowns for both of them. That's not realistic. Crabtree, 6 receptions on 7 targets for 83 yards. He's still there. Devontae Adams had 7 targets. Jordy Nelson had 8. Cobb had 13, tied for the second highest in Week 1 in targets. I think I said Amari Cooper had 13. I think he had 16. I think he led the league with 16. And then Tariq Cohen, 5 carries for 66 rushing yards. That's called an anomaly. That's not consistent. But rushing attempt leaders, this is important. Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, LaShawn McCoy, and then Buck Allen, known as his name's Javarius Allen. He had 2 more than Terrence West, but 9 yards less than Terrence West. And Baltimore and Buffalo both ran the ball 42 times. That's good to know. John Stewart had 18 carries. That's scary. Ty Montgomery, everyone loves him this week. 19 carries, 54 yards. If he doesn't get a touchdown, he didn't have that great of a week. Unless you play PPR, then he got you 12 to 14 points. Not good enough. But first take for week 2, thank goodness the Thursday night and Monday night football were insanely high scoring last week. Thank goodness this weekend, Thursday and Monday night, look absolutely disgusting. So to get right into it, Tennessee at Jacksonville. Jacksonville defense is amazing. They've been drafting first-round defensive players, and then they got A.J. Bouye. I was saying I loved him last week, that defense. What really hurt me last week was I played Zach Ertz and FanDuel, like I said, because I was going to get lower ownership, but the defense, I tried to pivot off those super easy plays to go with Arizona, Seattle. Seattle got a pick 6, and then it got held back. No one gets a touchdown against Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau. That didn't happen for some 300-something attempts in Lambeau, and it happened one of the first plays of the drive. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, yeah, this is going to be good. One of the first drives of the Detroit game, Arizona gets a pick 6. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Nope. Anyway, Jacksonville defense is amazing. Leonard Fournette, he's an NFL running back, 3rd highest rushing attempts. They lost Allen Robinson. That sucks, man. But they still can't throw the ball either way. So Bortles, 125 yards, 1 touchdown. Hey, no interceptions. Good job, Blake. 21 pass attempts. Like, they are not going to let him throw the ball. They said it. Yeah, all right, well, they're not going to let him. I see no reason as to why Tennessee can't stack the box this week. A lot of people are going to be on Fournette. I'm going to expose him, have a little exposure to him just because of how well he ran the ball. Jacksonville ran 60 plays, but they held the ball majority of the whole game. I like Fournette. I believe the Titans' offense is much better than the Texans' offense. So I don't think that Jaguars can hold the ball the entire game, although they're going to try to do something similar to what Dallas did last year. Only Jacksonville has a much better defense. They have a good offensive line. They got what seems to be a great rookie running back. This literally looks like Dallas with a better defense than last year. Oh, and they're in a pretty weak division. So sleeper team, which thank goodness, like Jacksonville has been a sleeper team since they've came into the franchise and went the 90s or something. I don't like anyone on Titans offense this week, and I like the Titans, but I don't like anyone on their offense this week due to the Jacksonville defense. Rashard Matthews looked awesome. Corey Davis looked awesome. Eric Decker did not. His wife sang the national anthem. She was great. Come on, Decker. You got to do better than that when your wife sings. But DeMarco Murray, he looked like he's got a hamstring issue. I don't know, like he said he did. So, and then they didn't roll Derrick Henry out there. The just offense wasn't all there. That's fine. Week 1, and Oakland was putting some pressure on them. But, oh, well, what can you do? But I'm not picking anyone on Tennessee. I'm not picking anyone on Jacksonville except for Fournette. A lot of people are going to play Jacksonville defense because of what they just did last week. I'm telling you, this Titans offense is not going to turn the ball over like Houston did. And their offensive line is way better. Houston didn't have their left tackle. Like, let's be real. We've all seen the blind side. Like, that's a huge deal. And, I mean, Dante Fowler came around the edge and he didn't even tackle the guy. He just reached his hand out and popped the ball right out of his hand. So I don't think it's going to happen this week. A lot of people are going to play Jacksonville defense due to recency bias. I'm not going to. I think their defense is amazing. But from a fantasy perspective this week, I think they're going to get you double-digit points. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. So that's great. You can use them in cash. But due to the chalk, I'm not going to use them. Minnesota at Pittsburgh. If you add all 3 running backs for New Orleans on Monday Night Football when they were forcing AP the ball at times, I mean, it was just ugly. That whenever they brought AP in, you knew it was going to go to him. They lined him up as tailback, the single back, and then he split out wide. Drew Brees did a roll around, and you weren't fooling anyone. That was horrible. Like, Sean Payton, you're better than that. That was bad. But anyway, even with AP getting these like forced touches for 2 yards, 1.8 yards a carry, You add all three running backs together, you still get 22 fantasy points from the running backs. Yeah, that sucks because it's divided by 3-ish. But that's when New Orleans was playing from behind against Minnesota, a great defense. What do you think a ticked off Le'Veon Bell, who got 10 catches or 10 carries last week, is going to do to them in what should be a much closer game? I definitely think that Le'Veon Bell is going to be a little bit lower owned. He's a little bit lower priced. DraftKings, he's still way up there, but FanDuel, he's lower priced. I know he touched the ball 10 times. I think that was just Coach Tomlin knowing he could win the game without Bell. And Le'Veon Bell wants all this money, and he's just, no, we don't need that. We got James Conner. We got a great offensive line. We got a great quarterback. We just got a great offense overall. He just kind of get over himself and show him that he's the coach. So this week, Coach Tomlin doesn't have that luxury. This Minnesota offense is pretty good. Sam Bradford doesn't turn the ball over. I know they just played the Saints, but he still had the highest completion last year, 81% completion week 1. I don't care if you play the Jets. I don't care if you play a college team. 81% completion is amazing. Everyone had just yards around them. The receivers just had these yards around them, just separation. They were running on their routes. Bradford, we never really knew how good he was going to be, but we still don't know. I'm not going to overreact to that. He looked great. The receivers ran crisp routes. They had separation. Adam Thielen was a freak in high school. He had bad quarterback play in college. Kind of hurt him, and Minnesota picked him up. He's a great route runner, great hands. And Stephon Diggs, like I said earlier, yeah, he's not going to, over 100 yards, I believe, 2 touchdowns. He only had 8 targets. Not only, that's still good, but I like Adam Thielen a lot. And his price on FanDuel, $5,800. Oh, yeah, I'll take that all day. He's playing in the slot. Artie Burns should be playing against Stephon Diggs. Joe Hayden's playing the number 2, Jarius Wright probably, and then Adam Thielen's in the slot. Yeah, I like that. For $5,800, he's going to be high, probably middle owned, just because everyone's going to be on Stephon Diggs, and that's fine. I'm going to be playing Bell. I think he gets you those 22 to 24 points this week. I'm not going to be playing him in DraftKings, though, because his price is too high. I play both FanDuel and DraftKings, and I think he's going to get 22 to 24 points this week. In FanDuel, probably 26 in DraftKings. I think he gets his touches. I think he still has his massive upside because it's going to be lesser ownership. Everyone's also going to be on Antonio Brown. I said I played Antonio Brown last week. You guys not forget, he's still going up against Cleveland without Joe Hayden. If you think he's a bum or not, still Joe Hayden. I like him. Now there's no Joe Hayden, and he went up against Cleveland. Everyone was just like, oh, yeah, Big Ben sucks on the road. We're not taking Antonio because last year. Okay, well, I did. So, but this week, they're all going to be pissed off because they didn't take Antonio Brown last week, and they took Bell. Now I'm going to take Bell, and you guys can use Brown. That's cool with me. I'm going to fade Brown due to his higher ownership, but it won't be too high. He's still a GPP play. Due to his price, he's tough to fit into lineups. He's got a real tough matchup this week. So I might not play him at all. I really might not use him because I like other receivers, but I'm going to have exposure to Bell. I'm not going to stack this game due to the Vikings defense. As good as Big Ben is at home, there's way too many other quarterbacks, which if you're looking at millionaire makers, you're looking at big tournaments, you need to be able to play contrarian to the big quarterbacks and these other big guys. You need to play a stud quarterback that goes off. Usually that means at home, but we got 2 guys named Rodgers and Brady that aren't at home this week that have incredible matchups. Big Ben does not have a good matchup because of all the other quarterbacks this week. 4 stud quarterbacks are in a great matchup. And then I like a few others, Derek Carr, Phillip Rivers, Carson Palmer. Because of these other quarterbacks, Big Ben's going to go completely under the radar and in what seems to be a very tough matchup, but he's at home. So I'm not – and I don't know. Now that I just heard myself say that, I'm probably going to have him in a lineup. But, I cannot fault anyone for using him. I think it's a sneaky pick. You can stack Bell Ben, and that way you're kind of afraid of the receivers. He threw 2 touchdowns to Jesse James. I might have to do a Ben Bell stack. What the heck? But I am going to fade Bradford and Diggs here. I'm going to have some exposure to Thielen. He's 5,800 on FanDuel. You can use him for that price and for what he just did and what he did last year too. And he's playing in the slot. You can use him in both GPP and cash. And hey, it can give you access to those huge quarterbacks this week and Bell. So I like Adam Thielen. Jets at Oakland. Everyone's going to stream Oakland defense. Everyone did last week with Buffalo playing the Jets. Is Oakland's defense better than Buffalo's defense? I don't know. I don't think so. It's hard to see off of week one. They weren't last year, but Buffalo got rid of a few guys. But Josh McCown, yeah, he threw 2 interceptions, but Buffalo's defense did well. Yeah, they held him to 12 points, but that's because Todd Bowles punts when he shouldn't and kicks field goals when he should go for it on fourth down, or in the red zone. I don't want to talk about it. But, yeah, I'm not going to stream Oakland's defense. I think there's 3 to 4 solid defensive choices this week and another solid choice that other people probably won't play up. So I'll be fading Oakland's defense. Yeah, Jets probably aren't going to put up more than 10 points, but they could have a trash touchdown in the fourth quarter. I don't know. So you can play Derek Carr, Amari Cooper. Cooper had 16 targets. He had to have 16 targets last week, I believe. Jared Cook, I got it written down. But Jared Cook had 5 targets and did a lot with them. Who had 16 targets? Well, someone beat Cooper's 13 targets. But, oh well. We'll never know. Yeah, I like Jared Cook, 71% snap rate, 5 catches, 5 targets, 56 yards. Charles Clay just carved up the Jets. Last week, Buffalo's tight end, who was a solid stream option. A lot of people used him. Like I said, I like Zach Ertz on FanDuel, so I was fine with that. I'm going to play a lot of Lynch. Vegas has Oakland winning by 14. Oof, that hurts. But Carr, Lynch, Crabtree, Cooper, they're all playable this week. People are going to stream Oakland's defense, but I like Jared Cook here, and I like Lynch most. So Jets, you don't need to. Please don't play anyone from the Jets. Cleveland at Baltimore. Everyone's going to play Baltimore's D this week. I've been saying the Ravens D is the truth. All preseason, I liked Baltimore's D. Play them again. Like West and Allen are in a timeshare. This team's going to constantly run the ball. They're going to be up, but it's going to be an ugly game. There's going to be a lot of running. I said they were tied with Buffalo, 42 rush attempts. West had 19. Allen had 21. West had 9 more yards than Allen. Allen is 4,900 on FanDuel. That's nothing. Javorius Allen, also known as Buck Allen. If you hear people talk about him, it's Buck Allen. Buck Allen could also catch the ball in the backfield. Terrence West had a touchdown. I'm not always big on when one guy gets a touchdown next week. Chances are, because it's the NFL, he's probably not going to duplicate that next week. So I like to pick people who, just because you got a touchdown last week, doesn't mean you're going to get one this week. I'll usually pick off of that. So I actually like Buck Allen this week for 4,900. Baltimore's going to be up. They're going to run. Play either one, play both. I don't care. Like, Terrence West is middle-ranged price, so I don't really care too much for him. Allen's 4,900. They're both going to be medium-owned. Allen's probably going to be higher-owned, but at 4,900, you don't need to fade him. What do you need for that? You need 10 points to get 2 times return. Like, that's insane. 12.5 points for 2.5 or something return. So why not use him in cash? You don't have anything to lose. Like, I think he gets you a couple catches and yardage, and he could always get you the touchdown, and he returns full value at under $5,000. Why not use him? I'll have exposure to both, but more so Allen. But as I start seeing the projections, if a lot of people have Allen, then I'll probably back off a little bit just because he still doesn't have a massive ceiling. It's still a split timeshare where they both could have a good game, which is 80 yards and maybe both touchdowns. But I don't see this offense being explosive. I don't see them scoring a lot. Hey, I like Justin Tucker if you play FanDuel. Everyone's going to use Baltimore defense. Last week, that was my weakness. I tried to fade, like I said, I tried to fade that Rams defense in Jacksonville by playing Arizona and Seattle, super low owned. They right back to back in both games, pick six. Like the beginning of the 1 p.m.'s pick six, beginning of the 4:30's pick six. One pick six got called back. Carson Palmer ended up throwing 3 interceptions. So that hurt. So I'm not going to fade the big defenses as much, but I'm going to have exposure to Baltimore. You never know with these rival games. And then again, Cleveland didn't look half bad. But that's enough of that game because it's not going to be high scoring. Buffalo at Carolina. Tyrod rushed 8 times. He had a great fantasy day. People saw why Charles Clay was a fantasy stream tight end. LaShawn McCoy's still LaShawn McCoy. Why did Buffalo give up Gillislee to New England in their division just to get an older, fatter version of him? Like, that doesn't make sense. I don't get it. But LaShawn always has an awesome floor. He has a good ceiling, but it's not as high as it could be because he has Tolbert there. And as long as Tolbert can get those goal line punches, his ceiling's not going to be as high. Carolina by no means is the Jets. Like, they're a good defense. So I'm not going to have, like, LaShawn was my number 1 running back last week. I had him in everything. I completely faded David Johnson and Bell. I didn't have them in a single lineup, and which was like my best move ever. But defenses won last week, so that sucked. But I'm not going to have full exposure to LaShawn. There's a few other running backs that I like this week. My number 1 running back, which I'll get to. But, yeah, I still like LaShawn. He's good for GPP. He's good for cash. But proceed with caution. He's the focal point of their offense. I don't know. Also with Tyrod, he gets you rushing attempts. So he gets you those ground yards, those rushing yards, which is huge points. Like he gets 50 rushing yards. So he just gets a free touchdown for the week, as well as he could run a touchdown in with that potential. And he still has a good arm. I think he's going to have to throw the ball to keep them in. So I like Tyrod Taylor again until his price comes up. I'm probably going to use him in cash games, not so much GPP, but he just put up almost 20 points. So at low ownership, 20 fantasy points, you could use him in a GPP as well. But my only caution this week is I'm pretty sure Carolina knows how to stop a mobile quarterback. Just saying. They got Cam Newton as their quarterback. I'm pretty sure their defense can stop mobile quarterbacks. I hate Kelvin Benjamin. No offense, Kelvin, but man, you suck. You just screw me over all the time. Jay Stu had 18 rushing attempts. Every time I say I don't like Kelvin Benjamin, I don't play him, and he gets 3 touchdowns. And then that's it, like for 4 weeks. So I'm not going to play him this week, which means go ahead and fire him up because he's probably going to have 3 touchdowns. But Jay Stu had 18 rushing attempts, and then Ron Rivera, the coach of Carolina, said he didn't want to run out Christian McCaffrey's battery. He's not a big dude. He's 5'11", 205 pounds. So when people say, oh, he's a goal line back too, you know, what? No, he's not. They got Cam Newton back there. We're not going to run it in as many times, but he still is I don't even know if it's a quarterback sneak. There's nothing sneaky about it. But you still got Jay Stu as a goal line back. McCaffrey is what's great about him. He gets this usage. He's on the field all the time, but it's limited. It's limited in the passing game and it's limited in the rushing game. So he has like a decent rushing game, a decent passing game. And if he doesn't get a touchdown in PPR, it's just a decent game. And that kind of sucks. I'm not seeing him, as people are saying, he's got this massive ceiling. Where? When? How did he get this massive ceiling? He hasn't done anything yet. He's great. His dad was great. Like, yeah, his family, they're all stud athletes. I haven't seen anything from him yet in the NFL. He had a great week 1, but when coach says, I don't want to wear out his battery, he said he's going to limit his touches. And then Jonathan Stewart got 18 rushing attempts, and Christian McCaffrey is going to be this versatile Darren Sproles, Woodhead, bigger version that can move around and run and almost like a Julian Edelman all mixed together, like, yeah, that's awesome. But when you're used a limited amount in the passing and a limited amount in the run, it gives you two decent sides of the ball. It's not a huge fantasy game. His price is good. I'd use him in cash. I'm not going to use him in a tournament. Tyrod's always available. I like Carolina's defense, so I'm not going to play Tyrod much. I'm not going to play Charles Clay. For a tight end, that's extremely hard to be that consistent, like 18 points or something. But yeah, I like LaShawn every week, but for his price, I like other running backs better. Arizona, Indiana, or Indianapolis, everyone's going to target the Cardinals defense. I'm going to have to do it this week. Like, I think they're just as good or better than probably just as good. The Rams defense might be really good. We don't know yet. But they got Wade Phillips. So I'm going to have to play Cardinals defense. I played them last week. It looked great. And then Palmer just destroyed his defense. Once again, I like Palmer. I do not think Bruce Arians will allow that man to throw 3 interceptions again. Like, there's no way. There's no way. Watch him throw like 4 or 5. And I'm like, see, I told you he wouldn't let him do 3. But they lost a guy named David Johnson. If you were first, second round pick, I'm sorry. But 48 passing attempts. He led the league last week in passing attempts. And now they lost David Johnson. Like, he's going to still have to throw now that they lost kind of a ground game. He's probably still going to have to throw. So I already talked about Fitzgerald and John Brown with their targets that they got last week. I like them both. Once again, until I see otherwise, John Brown's my tournament play, Fitzgerald my cash play. Palmer I can play in both because of his price and low ownership. Because of his price in floor, which seems to be 12. I can use him in cash and gives me guys like Jordy, Julio, Le'Veon, whoever. But I could also use him in GPP because he still has a 300-yard, 3-touchdown ceiling. Whether or not he looked like he was his age or not, I'm not going to take one game out. That's fine. But no one knows who's going to be the running backs. And if you guys are waiting for me to tell you who, I just said no one knows. Me personally, I think they're going to split it. So Andre Ellington is going to be the pass catcher because David Johnson did everything. So they didn't need these guys. But David Johnson's going to be the pass catcher. Kerwin Williams is going to be the runner. They also have a goal line back. I honestly think they are going to split reps between these guys. They're going to have a goal line back. They're going to have a running back, a Kerwin Williams, doing like majority of the touches. And they're going to have Andre Ellington, who's probably going to get 5 to 7 touches and maybe 4 to 6 catches. He's like a mini man Christian McCaffrey. So I'm not interested in this at all. I don't want anything to do with it. I'll fire up Palmer and Fitzy and John Brown. I'm not going to have that much exposure to them like I did last week. I had them in about 65, 70% of my lineups. I might be lying to myself. It might be even more. But I like both of them again this week. I'm just not going to play them as hard as I did last time. Philly at KC. Both teams look great. Everyone loved Wentz last week, and he returned his value for 18 points, which is exactly what I said last week. Is what did he do last year against them? Like 16, 17 points. So great. Only one time last year he had over 20 points, and that was 21 points. He got you 18. That freed up your lineup because you were hoping for 3 times value, which was what you got. You got 18 points. That's good. Very solid numbers, especially last week when there weren't a lot of quarterbacks. So what'd you do with that extra salary? You got David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell. Anyway, I liked Tyrod and Palmer for that Carson Wentz price similar range. I was 50% right. He's got a much tougher matchup this week. Kansas City's amazing against tight end. I know they just lost Eric Berry. That is how they stopped Gronk last week. But they've always been good against the tight end. So now he's gone. Zach Ertz will be used once again. Guess where Doug Peterson, the head coach of Philly, came from? Andy Reid. Guess what Andy Reid loves to use? Tight ends. Guess what Doug Peterson loves to use? Tight ends. If you guys hear that little jingle, my clothes are done in the dryer, and I never knew that jingle was that long, so I'm sorry. If you guys can't hear in the video, then I just sound like I'm crazy. I think the Kansas City defense is good, and it's in Kansas City. That's extremely hard to play. It's the loudest stadium. Sorry, Seattle fans. And Atlanta fans, you guys use fake speakers, so no offense. But I got no interest in this offense for Philly. I don't like the run game. I don't like anything about it. Tyreek Hill is a freak, but Kareem Hunt might be a bigger freak. Alex Smith is never going to duplicate that game he had against New England. And Kareem Hunt never going to duplicate that game he had all year. So I'm going to completely fade those two. And because of how well they did, Tyreek's going to be owned. He's always owned. He's just a freak. I mean, I never liked him because of his efficiency rate. It's just impossible to get those touchdowns that he had on the amount of time he was, the percent of his snaps, like his usage on the field. And then every week he did in just this ugly, crazy fashion. But now he's on the field and they're using him everywhere. As long as I got to check his status. Last I checked, he was fine. He was hurt last game at the end. But if Tyreek Hill is good to go, yeah, I'm going to have him probably 50% of my lineups. Kelce just burned people. Don't forget he was on the field for 64 out of 65 of their plays with 7 targets and goal line looks. Still a great tight end, but Philly is very good at the tight end. So if Hill's out, absolutely fire up Kelce. I don't think he's going to be out. He might be limited. If he's limited, then someone with his speed being limited. So, the normal saying, if you run a 4.3 and you get old, you run a 4.4. He's not old, but he might be a little hurt. So that's still fast. So Kelce's going to be lower ownership because of last week, slightly lower price. Eagles are really good at covering the tight end. But I only like Tyreek Hill. Everyone's going to go Kareem Hunt. I'm not going to tell you not to. Like, he looked amazing. I'm playing him in my season longs because I drafted him. I like Kareem Hunt, but I'm not going to play him this week. Too high of ownership, too many other good running backs that I like. New England at New Orleans. When I was writing out this whole outline, all I wrote was come back to this game. -6.5 New England is what Vegas has them as. Over under 55. And then I just wrote Brady. That was all, but that's all, just Brady. So I came back and wrote to it. This is my last game I wrote about. He will be the chalk. Tom Brady is going to be the chalk this week. He's tied with Aaron Rodgers, ESPN projections. And that just kind of tells you where I don't go based off their projections at all. That kind of helps me out with my ownership because a lot of people that play ESPN, they play this FanDuel and DraftKings as well. So if ESPN comes out there and says these are going to be the number one guys, then yeah. And then people that know what they're doing, yeah, I mean, everyone's going to play Brady. Just like last week with Bell and Johnson, I kind of think this Brady, Breeze, Matt Ryan, I like Rodgers, but these quarterbacks, one of them's going to go off. One of them's got to. All 4 of them might absolutely go nuts. But there are other amazing options at quarterback. So if you don't play a lot of lineups, then you either need to put all your eggs in one basket on Brady or you got to pick other guys. Due to the amount of running backs they have, no coach gets 6 running backs on their team that are all relevant. And because most NFL teams, yeah, they carry 4, 5, 6 running backs. That's not a big deal. But every single one of them on New England they're good. And they're all used. Well, 4 of them are heavily used. And Tom Brady's getting older. He handed the ball off multiple times on the goal line. I don't know. When you're projected that high, when you have that high of ownership, but you have that many running backs on your team that are used, they held the ball, or they ran 74 plays. Yeah, they had 74 plays last week. And they handed off the ball to run a lot. So that's kind of scary when you're paying this high for the chalk. Once again, this is just like I said, Bell and Johnson last week. In no way am I trying to deter you from playing Brady. I'm just letting you know that he could easily get you 300 yards and a touchdown. Is that what you paid for? Nope. Is that going to win you a tournament? Nope. Is it going to win you a cash? Yeah, it's going to win you a cash. I tricked you. It's going to be hard to stack him. Stacks are really good. If your quarterback goes off, you hit that right stack, you're going to cash, just a matter of how much. I'm not going to be all in on Brady. The main stack I see is Brady Gronk, but good luck making a lineup. You're going to have to use Javorius Allen for 4,900 at running back. You're going to have to use another mid-priced running back, and you're probably not going to get a stud wide receiver either. So is Brady Gronk worth the rest of your lineup? I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like Brandon Cooks. You could say the revenge game all you want. Belichick doesn't care. I don't like Cooks. They don't have enough chemistry together. I like Hogan. I like Chris Hogan a lot. Danny Amendola came on the field, and we all remembered that he still made a glass. So he's a cool dude, but I don't know the guy. I don't know if he's a cool dude. But Chris Hogan played lacrosse. I used to play lacrosse. Wasn't great at it. Chris Hogan was. He's probably a cool dude. But I like Hogan. 91% snap rate. He has a low price. He's got low ownership. What is his price? It's $6,200 on FanDuels. It's like multiple people dueling, so I guess that works. $6,200 on FanDuel, not bad at all. So you could play John Brown, $5,800, Adam Thielen, you're talking $5,800, and Chris Hogan, $6,200. And all of a sudden, hey, guess what? You can get Brady, Gronk, and Bell. So it's just roster construction, but it just depends. That to me sounds like a very risky lineup, but I'm probably going to run one of them. I don't like Cooks. I like Hogan, 91% snap rate. He didn't have, I think he caught 1 on 5 targets or something, like not good, but I don't care. Like the fact that he was on the field that much and now it's projected 55-point game and Drew Brees should keep them in the game. They're not going to be kicking field goals like they did last game. Like they are going to score. He's in the dome. It's okay. Brees is going to get you 300 yards. Like make no doubt about it. It's whether or not he gets an interception or not, and it's whether or not how many touchdowns he gets. Me personally, I think Brees and Brady, I think Brady gets you right under 300 yards because of all their running backs that they use, and they are going to be up. They're 6.5 favorites, and they had a lot more time to just be off in general in practice before this game. So I like Brees because he's going to have to throw more than I do like Brady. But I also think the Chris Hogan Brady stack is a good pivot from Gronk. I might do a Brees Hogan kind of stack, and that's because I don't really like any stack with Brees. But I do think Brees gets you 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. He just has potential for those massive monster games. I still think New England's a great defense. I know, week 1, not good. It didn't help when they had left tackle issues, I believe, and defensive end issues. But Dante Hightower's, he's going to be out, but they're going to take care of it. So I actually think this defense is going to be good. I'm not going to have full exposure to Brady and Brees because everyone else will, and I just see too many other quarterbacks being out there. I like other little stacks this week, which I'll talk about. There's so many guys on this New Orleans offense that get targets. Michael Thomas is their number 1 weapon. Belichick always shuts down number 1 weapons. So no thanks. I don't like Michael Thomas this week. Brandon Coleman's a freak athlete. He's 6'6". He runs like a 4.4 or 4.3 or something. He had 3 targets. Ted Ginn, 5 targets. Kobe Fleener, 6 targets. Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, they all had targets. It's like it doesn't seem like any of these players are going to have this massive monster game. Like last year, you had Cooks you can stack with Brees. You had Michael Thomas when you thought Cooks was going to be double teamed or had the safety over the top double teamed, but it had the strong cornerback matchup. You could play Michael Thomas. They don't have Willie Snead right now either. Like last year, you could just guess when Drew Brees was at home, you could just make a bunch of your core players and just swap out those 3 wide receivers. Thomas, Cooks, and Snead. Well, all you have is Michael Thomas, and he's in his second year against New England. So I don't know. I think that limits Brees. New England had 74 plays last week. New Orleans had 59. New England had, there it is, I wrote it down. New England had 35 rushing attempts last week in a tight game while they were behind for a lot of it. That's the sixth highest rushing attempts for week one. And I already said this before, Tom Brady's getting old. They got a lot of good running backs that are heavily used. I just don't see Tom Brady going to throw it 45 to 50. I mean, that dude has thrown the ball 60 times last year in games. Like, I might be slightly exaggerating, but he will do whatever it takes to win. Yes, but I don't know. I just don't see that being that consistent. So, and I don't think they have to do that. Maybe this game, but you could tell I don't really like either ones for their price and for their chalk, meaning their high ownership. New Orleans had 21 rushing attempts. Then again, they were down and Minnesota dominated them. Be cautious about the amount of New England, how they use their running backs on the goal line. I already talked about all this. I already spent too much time on this game. It's very hard to fade, but you can do it. I believe in you, but don't do a full fade. Still have a little bit of exposure because it's stupid to say Brady on the road in a dome against New Orleans. Like, how can you fade that? But hopefully I brought up enough points to where if you're thinking of, well, maybe I should fade them. Yeah, that's fine. Chicago at Tampa Bay. Chicago has a solid defense. They held Julio in check. They held Freeman in check. They just don't have much of an offense. I still like Jordan Howard. He's going to be low owned. He's got a good price. He didn't get too many rushing attempts. I think 13 or 15 rushing attempts last week. Mike Evans is going to be lower owned just due to him not playing last week. I mean, that's just how it is. People kind of forgot about him. I kind of like Cameron Brate. I like Mike Evans. I kind of like a Jameis Winston, Mike Evans stack. I'm going to use that at 1 or 2. Maybe a cash, maybe a GPP. I think it's both. Jameis Winston plays good at home. He's got weapons. Without a running game because of Doug Martin, with Jaquiz Rogers back there, they tend to use him as kind of a pass-catching back. And he also gets touches, so you can use him in cash games and feel completely confident about it, especially if you're trying to get Brady, Gronk, Brees, whoever, Bell. You can use Quiz Rogers and those other cheap guys I named. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I do think that Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston is probably going to be under 5% owned. These other quarterbacks that I named, those other two, Rodgers and Matt Ryan, these 4 quarterbacks are going to take up majority of the quarterback play this week. So 1, you got to pick the right one. And 2, if you divert from that and your quarterback does higher than them, then you're sitting pretty. I think a low-owned, high-upside stack is Winston Evans. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but that doesn't mean Winston doesn't have a good game. Chicago has a pretty solid defense, in my opinion. Tampa Bay still rusty. They didn't have that week 1 to knock off, and we saw how bad week 1 was. So, yeah, I'm not going to have full exposure to this game, low score, but I like Winston and Evans, Quiz and cash. Miami at the Chargers. Man, I really like this Chargers team. Charge up this defense, LA Chargers, and majority of my GPPs and even my cash games. I love Phillip Rivers here. I love this entire offense, the defense, and even the kicker. He's got a cool name. I think they're going to score. I think Miami's secondary is not good, but I think their front 7 is really good. But Chargers have a really good team. Hunter Henry, Keenan Allen, they looked rusty, but Keenan Allen still got a touchdown in at the end, which is Chris Harris. I think he's only given up like 8 touchdowns or something ever to wide receivers. Keenan Allen, after not playing for an entire year with a full preseason, just got a touchdown on him and 10 targets. Like, yeah, I like that. Rivers, I know he started off slow, but you're against the no-fly zone in a rival match in Denver, Mile High Stadium, one of the hardest stadiums to play at, Monday night, prime time against that defense, and you still are one of the top fantasy quarterbacks for the week. Like, you think Miami's going to stop them? Just so we all know, Melvin Gordon, so we're on the same page, Melvin Gordon still can't run. He is touchdown dependent, but I like him so much because their offensive line improved. That's why I drafted him in a lot of my season leagues. But he gets catches. He got 5 catches last week. Luckily, it saved his fantasy week and mine. But yeah, you can use Gordon. I like him in cash. I don't like him in tournaments and GPPs, but I'm going to be targeting this heavily. But I like Phillip Rivers more than I like Gordon. I like Rivers, Keenan Allen. A lot of people like Keenan Allen this week, but I'm not going to fade him. What I am going to do in a GPP is probably play Travis Benjamin. I got to look back over targets and see Tyrell Williams and Travis Benjamin. Forgot to write that down. I looked it up, wrote it down somewhere, but this video is already long enough. I think Chargers defense is amazing. They dropped a pick 6. Casey Hayward had it, and it changed the whole game. Like, they dropped a pick 6. Denver's offense actually looked good. So Miami's offense, I don't think will. I know a lot of people like Jay Ajayi. I just don't like Jay Ajayi. I think he's had some massive games in it and fluctuated and skewed his numbers. Yeah, he had like 7 games in a row over 100 yards. Like, yeah, obviously, I don't think the guy's a bad runner. Coach Casey is a run-first coach. In no way do I like their offensive line. No one respected Jay Ajayi. They didn't respect the run. They have great wide receiver cores, or a wide receiver core, but now they got Jay Cutler. The timing's probably not there. Without an offensive line, like, I'm going to play Chargers defense in probably all my GPPs, just because the other solid defenses, which I got to learn from last week. Don't fade all the amazing defense plays, but I definitely like this Chargers team this week. Everyone on them. You can stack them. You can play Gordon, Rivers, Allen, Chargers defense. And no one's going to have that stack. And if they go off, you do fine. And remember, this is Jay Cutler's first game, and it's in Los Angeles. Even if that stadium can only hold like 35 fans, they still got to travel to LA, and it's Jay Cutler, and it's week 1 for Miami. I like the Chargers defense all day. And they're going to be extremely low owned and have an awesome price. All right, next. Dallas at Denver. This could be a sneaky game that goes above the Vegas's over-under. It's at 42.5, and I think it's going to go over. So if you take that Dallas -2, Vegas thinks they're going to win 23-20. And just seeing Denver's offense last week, I think it's going to force Dallas to have to not just only run the ball, but I really like Zeke Elliott this week. I don't think Dak will be able to do too much against his secondary, and they have the luxury of going ISO on wide receivers due to Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. They can stack the box against Ezekiel, but I think Dak Prescott with those quick checkdowns, and I also think Ezekiel, he got 5 catches last week. Like, that's huge. That's a lot. DraftKings, an extra 5 points. FanDuel, you get 2.5, but just those yards as well. And then that's just promising to see Ezekiel Elliott, because he's going to get you 22 to 26 touches. That's all there is to it. Especially if it's a close game and they got to run it out at the end. If it's 23 to 20, like Vegas says, then Zeke's probably going to have to run it in the 4th. I don't think there's enough points to go around in this Denver offense for me to target anyone. I like the way Trevor Siemian looks. I like him as a quarterback. But I don't like – what I did like is that Denver found out that they had a wide receiver not named Emmanuel Sanders or Demaryius Thomas. That was cool. But they kind of were forced to due to the Chargers cornerbacks. They made them throw to the middle, and they had to hit Fowler and A.J. Darby, their other tight ends. So I'm not going to be picking anyone in Denver's offense, but this is my bold prediction for Zeke. This is my number 1 running back this week. I think he has 100 yards rushing. I think he has 5 catches again, because Von Miller's going to come around that side. They're going to get a little bit of pressure on him, and he can just do check downs. That's how you beat the blitz. You run or you do check downs to one of the greatest running backs in the league. I think Denver's going to blitz, and Von Miller's going to come around, and Zeke's going to just blow through. Once he blows through that front seven, he's gone. And I think he gets 2 touchdowns. So I think he has a massive game. I'll be playing Zeke in both GPPs and cash games. And because of Le'Veon Bell and LaShawn McCoy, you can get Ezekiel Elliott. This is FanDuel, but you can get him for an extremely low price, probably higher ownership. But okay, so he's 8,700. McCoy is 8,600. I don't care. I'm still going to play him. So, yeah, I like him. And because it's Denver against that defense, people are probably going to shy away from him compared to normal when you fire up Zeke. And, yeah, I'm probably going to be not 100% exposure. I don't think I ever do 100% exposure on any player. Just because if he gets, heaven forbid, he gets hurt at the beginning or he just lays a goose, every single one of your lineups is out. So I'm probably going to have him in, because of his price, I'll probably have him in 75% of my lineups. Washington at LA Rams. The Rams offense still sucks. I know, sorry. Cooper Kupp, people are on the Cooper Kupp train. He's a great wide receiver, great route runner, great catcher, great hands. He's got chemistry there with Jared Goff. He had a great preseason, kind of got hurt. He was a stud in college. He just didn't really have many targets. This offense still isn't fully clicking. That defense clicked. It was against the Colts. The Colts there was a safety and 2 pick sixes plus field position. You think Washington, and what I believe, this is way too early to say must win, but they can't lose to Philly, a divisional game, and then lose to Rams in the conference. They can't go 0-2 against NFC teams. And the Rams, as good as they looked on defense, they were in a home opener against Scott Tolzien. Guess what? Washington actually has a quarterback. Yeah, they didn't look great last week. I won't be targeting this game too much. The Rams were poor against wide receivers last year, so I don't think they improved too much at it. Terrell Pryor and Crowder had a good amount of targets. Kirk, Terrell Pryor, and Crowder will all be low owned. Terrell Pryor had 11 targets, 6 catches, 66 yards. It's not a horrible game by any means. It's not a great game. It's at best a cash game in DraftKings, and it's still not good enough. But just the fact that he had 11 targets that's all I'm looking for is usage. That's really all we have week 2. I think the Kirk Terrell Pryor stack is another one of those Winston Evans stacks where it's just really low owned for GPP. I'm going to have Winston Evans stack in one tournament, and I'm going to have Kirk and Terrell Pryor in another tournament. Other than that, I don't want anything to do with this game. San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle's defense is about to feast. They should have had a pick six. I already said that. They had a block in the back. Seattle's offense does not get away. I said that in my other video. They only average 19 points away. They average 26 or 27 at home. Let alone Russell Wilson had to go up against Dom Capers defense. So far, historically, Russell Wilson is horrible at that. Now you put them at home against a young San Francisco team who just looked awful against Carolina, and they were at home, and I think Seattle is a solid play this week. The only thing, I think Seattle's defense stifles them so bad that it's not a high-scoring game because San Francisco still has good linebackers, and there's still no offensive line for Seattle. So I think Russell Wilson still runs for his life, but because of how much this defense can just win this game this week, I'll be playing Seattle defense and Blair Walsh, their kicker. I'm not going to have high exposure to Russell Wilson or Doug Baldwin or Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham, this is what I was afraid of. He was going to have to be used as a blocker and not how he should be. But what's more important, using Jimmy Graham as he should be used or keeping your franchise quarterback healthy and or alive? the latter. So I still like Wilson and Doug. I'm probably not going to pay up for Jimmy Graham this week. Maybe minimum exposure. San Fran is horrible against the run, and they're not good against. They weren't good against anything last year. They just held Greg Olsen in check, but I think the Seattle defense does too much, and I think it's one of the best picks at defense this week for both cash and GPP. Green Bay at Atlanta, big game. I know Matt Ryan's good at home. I know Green Bay doesn't have much of a secondary, and I know what happened last year in the NFC Championship game. I'm still taking Rodgers and company in this one. I think everyone heard about Ty Montgomery and his 74 snaps. The entire DFS world likes Ty Montgomery this week. Tariq Cohen and Jared Howard combined for a massive game, especially Cohen in the passing yardage. Atlanta isn't good at stopping running backs, let alone passing running backs. They give up a ton of touchdowns to the running back. But Ty Montgomery had 54 yards on 19 carries. That's 2.8 yards a carry. If he doesn't get, and he had to get those catches, I'm not going to take away any of that from him. Just if he doesn't get that touchdown, like all of a sudden he was sitting at 12 to 14 points, depending on your score system. That's not going to win you anything. It might help you someone in a cash. That's not going to give you anything. I already went over the target share for Cobbs, Adams, and Jordy Nelson, but Devontae Adams had to go up against Richard Sherman like the entire game. Cobb just tried to eat him up in the middle, and they were bringing help over Jordy Nelson, who still had a phenomenal game. I'm not going to play Cobb at all this week. I think you can get Devontae Adams at low ownership at a low price, and I think he also has that 2-touchdown upside. I think he has a phenomenal game. They're going to try to stop Jordy Nelson, and I don't think they have enough to stop. I think they're going to bring Keanu Neal over Jordy Nelson, and Devontae Adams is going to have a very good week in the end zone. Atlanta is minus 2.5. Over-under is 53.5. Due to recency bias, Cobb's going to be higher owned. I'm going to take Adams. For a stack, because this game's going to be chalk, I really like the Rodgers-Nelson-Adams stack. Mohamed Sanu got more targets than Julio Jones last week. I don't like that. That's because Chicago had a good game plan against Atlanta. I don't think Julio Jones, and I've said this before, I'm afraid of his 30-point games when I'm not using them, and I'm afraid of his 9-point games when I am using them, because you're paying for a 20-point game. And he did what I was afraid of. I don't think Green Bay is going to be able to do that. Their secondary is not as good. So then again, we don't know if Chicago has a great secondary, but I said they had a decent defense, and Atlanta was favored by 9. I also said about Kyle Shanahan's offense. Atlanta had 55 plays last week. Of the bottom, I don't know how many teams it was, the bottom 13 or 14 teams that were in the lower percentage of plays, only 2 of them won, Baltimore and Atlanta. Every single other team with this many plays, a similar amount, or obviously lower, lost. Every single one of them. You just can't win with that many plays. Like, you don't have the ball long enough. You aren't able to do that. Luckily for them, Chicago had less plays and couldn't really do much on offense. But this Rodgers-Nelson-Adams stack, you're contrarian to the mass amount of Ty Montgomery and the mass amount of Rodgers stacks. So I really like it. I'm going to try to have Julio in 30% of my lineups. And so I'm just bringing up the plays, like how many plays were ran. And it was just, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So starting from Cleveland, 17 ranked. So Cleveland, Washington, Carolina, or Cleveland, Washington, Jacksonville, Baltimore, New Orleans, Cincinnati, Chargers, Jets, Atlanta. Atlanta was 6th lowest in the league. Pittsburgh, San Fran, Giants, Indy, Seattle. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You got 4 winners there. So, yeah, not great when you're running that many plays. I don't like it. So I don't see. Oh, and a fun fact, Green Bay was tied for first at 74 plays. So you have an over under of 53.5. Atlanta supposedly favored, but they just ran 55 plays, and Green Bay just ran 74. Yeah, I know. Atlanta opens up in their brand new dome, which is amazing. Green Bay is on the road, but I don't know. I like the Rodgers stack. If you can get a slightly less owned, because people are still on Matt Ryan in his MVP season and he's at home, I'm going to take Rodgers, Nelson, Adams, and I'm actually going to fade Ty Montgomery. Not fully, but I'm going to fade Ty Montgomery pretty heavily because, like I said, if he doesn't give you that touchdown last week, you're sitting at 12 to 14 points, and that's just not a lot. And that's if he's in PPR format. So on the Atlanta side of the ball, I'm not liking that split tailback committee they have going on, and I don't like how Julio didn't get that many targets. He got way less than Sanu. Chicago did a good job stopping him. I just don't see him having another dud week in their first home game in the new stadium against a weak Green Bay secondary where Matt Ryan's going to be forced to throw. So, but when Matt Ryan's been forced to throw in the past, he's thrown interceptions. So I'm not taking Matt Ryan a lot. Aaron Rodgers is going to be out of those, which I was saying, those four quarterbacks, Ryan, Rodgers, Brees, and Brady. They're all in the dome, so that's good. And and I'm saying if you got to pick one, my favorite is Rodgers. Any one of these guys or all four of them can pop off. So my most exposed quarterback this week is going to be Phillip Rivers, and then it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. So I'll have a minimum exposure to Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, so I don't get burned by that stack out of tournament, because you can see what they've done in the past when Julio goes for 20, 25, Matt Ryan goes for 25, 30, and all of a sudden you're sitting there with 50 plus points or around 50 points with two players. And like that's how you win a tournament. So Monday Night Football is Detroit at the Giants. Blech. Glad I play Sunday only. But overall, this is the heaviest amount of favorites I've ever seen in the NFL from Vegas. There are 9 -6 favorites or above. That's huge. Target those defenses, and usually you can stack the running back. So I went ahead and did that for you already. Baltimore defense. Who do you get? Buck Allen, Terrence West. I don't know. Both. You can do that, but I'm not going to. Carolina defense. Who do you get? Stewart or McCaffrey? Stewart gets you 16 plus or minus some carries. McCaffrey's probably going to get you 7-8 targets and probably 10 to 12 rushing attempts. No thanks. And they're going against Buffalo, which I don't think is a horrible offense. Arizona defense, good luck picking a running back. Pittsburgh's -6, but I'm not going to take them against what I just saw the Vikings do, just because I don't see them turning the ball over. Tampa Bay -7. You can pair that with Quiz, but I'd rather have Evans and Winston. Chicago just beat the spread against the Falcons. Yes, I know now they're in Tampa. They were in Chicago, so this week they're not. But maybe Cohen and Howard are both fades because everyone's going to play Tariq Cohen. But Tampa Bay being -7, usually you don't want a running back when the opposing team's -7, but he was used a lot as a receiver. So if his price is still super low, then yeah, you can play him. I forgot what I wrote his price down as. 5,400. Yeah, you can run him all day. Oakland defense, Lynch, that's going to be a common stack. I just don't like Oakland defense. I like Lynch. Seattle -13.5. Seattle defense is going to be my main defense probably. I like the Chargers and Baltimore. What running back are you going to pick? So that brings us to a total of 0 defense and running back stacks that I'm confident in. But quarterbacks that I like, there's going to be chalk everywhere. Pick one of those 4, stick with them. Other than that, Tyrod Taylor is still going to get you those those rushing yards. He still gets you. He should throw a touchdown. I'm probably going to play Phillip Rivers in majority of my cash and my GPPs. And I like Rodgers. Like I said, he's going to be my main pick out of those big four. But I'm going to go for Carson Palmer again in a few. Not like I did last week, probably 15% of my lineups. But once again, Vegas predicts him to score 26. They scored 26 last week, and he threw 3 interceptions. You think he's going to do that again in another favorable matchup? Should be a favorable matchup. He's going up against Indianapolis. He's going to be low owned. He's going to be cheap. He gives me access to Le'Veon Bell. Fitzy had 13 targets. John Brown had 9. I like them both. I'm not going to run the running backs. So Rivers, Palmer. I'm going to take Rodgers over the other big 3. Tyrod. It's worth noting that Breeze in an extremely hard game still went for almost 300 yards and he had a touchdown. So what do you think Big Ben can do at home against them? Like I said, Big Ben, sneaky pick for a tournament. Rivers is my favorite pick of the week. Gordon can't run. He's touchdown dependent, but he gets catches in the backfield. So he's still good. I'm just not going to play him. A lot of people are big on Gordon this week. I'm not going to play him. Everyone's going to play Ty Montgomery. I like Marshawn Lynch. I like Bell. I already spoke long enough on this video. I got long-winded. These are a lot of good games, and week 1 was tough. But I'll break down the videos of running backs and tight ends, and because I don't like a lot of tight ends this week, so I'll have to do more of that with running backs, and I'll talk about quarterback or wide receivers and different stacks. So hopefully I didn't blabber on too much. You could always just go shoot through the video, pick up tidbits, but if you're at this part already, you didn't do that. So thanks for watching. Hopefully it helps you out. And like I said, comment anything. Let me know what I can change other than like the backdrop. I'm not tech savvy. So, and other than not being a Jets fan, like, trust me, I tried. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Good luck.